Hey guys, welcome back to the Shelby Vodcast. I'm Jonas Schofield. I'm a junior studying economics and political science from Sylacauga, Alabama.
Hey, I'm Gracie Moody. I'm from Coleman, Alabama, and I'm a sophomore studying public relations.
Hi, I'm David from Montgomery, Alabama.
He's our awesome guest today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, this is Dr. Bronner here from the RSA. Dr. Bronner, thank you so much for being here. We're going to start off with, if you could just tell us a little bit about your experiences working with Senator Shelby and give some details on what that looked like day to day.
Well, I met Senator Shelby when he was in the state legislature. And I always remember he came to me as he was going to decide to run against the incumbent for the United States Senate. And I was so smart back then that I said, you ain't got a chance. Because I said, this is a military state. How can you beat somebody like this? Well, he knew a lot more than I did, obviously. But he was always, he's a special sort of person. There's very few people that I look up to. There's probably one that you might have heard of. His name was Robert Morgenthau, who was the district attorney in New York, who had jurisdiction across the country, and Senator Shelby, because he gets things done in his own quiet manner. He's totally different than most politicians, if you want to know the truth. Both he and his wife were special to me because his wife helped, along with Senator, of course, but really her, get my son, who graduated from law school here in Tuscaloosa. I told him he didn't know much, so I got him into Georgetown in Washington, from whence he then goes to New York and practices with Mr. Morgenthau and subsequently the governor of New York as Attorney General. So it's sort of interesting, the background with Senator Shelby, because he works the state very hard, but he's the only one that I've ever seen visit every county every year. Now that you got to say, oh, we're out an old guy like me.
That's some good stuff. What leadership traits did you see in Senator Shelby that helped him be so successful?
Well, I think, there's various traits in leadership. Some are bombastic, to say the nicest. Some are just downright rude. He is a lot like his successor, Britt. And they seem to say, okay, I can work with anybody that acts decent. And he's always had that reputation. He's had that reputation through his life. And, but he cares. And it's something that's unusual. Most politicians are like most people in my world of finance. Let's say a little bit greedy at least. Either I want money or I want power or something like this. He's different. He says, okay, we have a problem. Let's face the problem. Let's get you, and everybody else on the same page and see if we can solve it. And that's just more of an academic approach. Maybe his wife gave him that.
Awesome. Well, you've been serving Alabama for a long time. You've been in the work for a while. What changes have you seen, and how do you think those will continue to progress throughout the years?
It's a difficult... we have a group of people that have been left behind forever, and they still think that way. They're hesitant to do anything that's dynamic or hesitant to do anything. One of my pet peeves has always been, you can't be, I used to use illustrations in speeches. Look at, if I asked Coach Saban to have the cheapest resources possible, why do you think he could do what he does? He doesn't. I mean, you've got to have resources, and when your state, our state, right now is the third lowest taxes in the United States, but you want to be the best, there's a little problem in my mind. How do you get there without a commitment? and you can say it to education for those that are in Alabama. You know, you got good public schools in certain places. Only because why? Only because those people decided to do something about it and not sit there on their hands and say, well, let's hope for the best. You know, well, how about working for the best? You know, something like that.
Tenacity. That's a good thing.
That's right. And not get so disappointed when you get beat up.
Right. Makes sense.
And I've been beat up lots of times, but what we've tried to do is make progress.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens.
Love to see it. Is there a specific moment or decision from Senator Shelby's life that really stood out to you?
Well, I know the swamp of Montgomery, like they used to like to label, but it's just a baby swamp compared to Washington. Mm-hmm. And the difference in that is getting something done. You have to have tenure. And you have to have what a couple of the Alabama legislators figured out, and is I've got to have friends. I can't be a senator with no friends. I can't be a congressman without friends, because unless you have a group on your side, you can't accomplish anything. Because I guess a good illustration would be the retirement system with the patience, or tenacity as you referred to, of Airbus. I mean, how in the world did Alabama out of the rest of the world, of the whole United States, land Airbus? That's ridiculous. Just like here in Tuscaloosa, when we landed Mercedes. I mean, it blew the world's mind, if you want to know the truth. But in the case of Airbus, and I guess Mercedes was easy compared to Airbus, because Mercedes only took a couple of years. And that was a relationship between an existing governor at that time and the Germans. And, you know, he only lasted 2 years in office, believe it or not. He bought the biggest, best company in the world here and gets tossed. Well, in the case of Airbus, for example, RSA, we spent 13 years. You know, so it takes a lot of time and effort depending on the project and the size of it and the scope of it. And all of a sudden in Alabama, you got the first drug company, Lilly. I mean, Lilly is coming to Huntsville, believe it or not. And we never had a drug company. So change, in order to get big change, it takes a lot of work, a lot of time. And doing what Senator Shelby could do, that is build a coalition to accomplish that thing. That's the difference.
That's incredible stuff. Kind of a question to wrap us up, unless you have something else to add.
I was just going to ask more about you and your time at the RSA, kind of more along the lines of helping out the future generations. How did you find a field that you love so much and you still seem to be very passionate about it throughout your time there?
Well, I think my objective for decades has been, I don't care if you recognize me or not, but I really like to look at, for example, the impact of the auto industry on the state. Because when we got Mercedes in the 90s, that's a mere 30 years ago, and you imagine what it was 55 years ago. In the 60s, my eyeballs were going around like a slot machine saying, you know, how do you change this place? How do you move the place? How do you get it going? You know? Well, we've been doing it that way for 50 years. But you really don't want to do it for another 50 years because you're going to get left way behind. And you know, what gave me satisfaction was the aspect of knowing that first generation kids of these auto workers can actually go to college. Because they never thought about it before. And bringing in top-notch companies says, look, we'll put you in here. I always remember the perfect illustration of one of the training sessions that Mercedes did. They had some good old boys in one room how to change a tire. They had a group of black ladies in another room, how to change a tire. They followed the rules perfectly, the women. It took about 20 minutes longer. The good old boys didn't get the job because the company wants people that if I set out the rules and I have this big product at the end, I don't want you to ad-libbing the part that you're doing. So that's how they carried it through. And that made me feel really neat. How do you move it? You come into Tuscaloosa, and you know sometimes God comes in, and just the tragedy of the tornadoes that went through Tuscaloosa are bad enough, but the regrowth of it is fantastic.
Absolutely. How can students like us keep contributing to that growth in Alabama? I know Jonas and I are both from here, and it means a lot to us to be Alabama students. So
Yeah.
how can we keep growing it?
I don't know.
We'll
Well,
figure it
there you
out.
Guess
Figure
that's
it
for
out.
us to learn.
Yeah.
And close
Good
out.
stuff. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much, Dr. Bronner, for joining us. It means a
Sweet.
lot.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.